Meanwhile, on the comic box, there was an idea. Ba-da-ba-ba-doom-down-da-ba-da-dum, comics. Hello, everyone, and welcome to issue 76 of the Comic Box, part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. I am Rob, your friendly neighborhood comic geek, and this week, I know, I said I was going to do Runaways, but we are releasing this early because this morning, I woke up, I looked at my phone, and what did I see? I saw the Avengers, man, Infinity War, coming straight at my face holes where my eyeballs sit. It was fantastic. So, here's my thought. I want to do something totally different here. I am going to do, I guess, is it a reaction podcast? I don't know, but I'm going to watch it. I'm going to go step by step, pause on a bunch of different frames, and talk my way through it. So I have no idea how this is going to go, but I wanted to try this because this is the big one. This is it. 10 years of movies, a decade of movies. Literally, I was reading online, kids who started watching these when they were 8 years old are now adults out there voting and doing other adult things, I guess. Off headed to college now, who are going to experience this. I can't imagine what that is like. These movies started coming out right before I left college, so I've always sort of been an adult trying to find time to go see these movies. But I'm sure there's people out there. I'm sure some of you guys listening right now, this is a huge, huge deal. I mean, it's huge for me too, but before we get too ahead of ourselves, I want to quickly do a little weekly geekery, because that's what we do on this show. So we're going to go weekly geekery. Very briefly, I didn't watch any Runaways yet, because it's only midway through the week. We had Thanksgiving, did a little bit of Black Friday shopping, might have bought myself a couple of superhero t-shirts and baseball caps and things. As far as other nerdy things, the wife and I have begun playing Lego Harry Potter. You can really tell that it's an early Lego game. You can tell that it's still kind of rough around the edges, and it doesn't play nearly as smoothly as Lego Jurassic World does. As far as watching things, we are still slowly plugging along on The Office, and I started, for Fletch, I started trying to watch the Norm Macdonald stand-up special, and I'm sorry, I got like halfway in. Like, it's fine, it's a stand-up special. I did not see what the hubbub was about. As far as reading, though, I did download off of Hoopla and start reading Forever Evil. I am, I think, 2 issues in now, and I can see why people would like it. I can see there's obviously a lot on the periphery that you don't get in the main trade that must have been going on in the side series, because they're just like, the Justice League is dead, and here's Batman, and he's the one who only barely survived, and he says nobody else made it. And I don't know if I'm going to get that story here, or if that was in the Justice League comic book, but I'm excited to keep reading. I also finished reading Nailbiter, which was a horror comic about a town that spawns a lot of serial killers. And while I enjoyed the series as a whole, I was a little let down by the ending. I felt it was just a little anticlimactic, but that is not to say that somebody else is not going to love the heck out of that. So certainly adult content. There's some darker stuff in there as far as, it being serial killers and all. But it was a very interesting read and a very cool premise for a comic book. And that is it for our weekly geekery. So let's take a quick commercial break. We're going to listen to spots for some other shows on the network here. And then we're going to come back and dive into this trailer. So stay with us.
I'm Void.
And I'm Beej.
And together, we're the Geek to Geek podcast. Well, we make it. It is kind of us, but I guess it's separate.
Every week, we pick a topic from geek or digital culture and chat about it for a while.
And you're invited. We talk about books and movies, games, comics, the internet.
Or really whatever we feel like.
Yeah, that too.
So look for the Geek to Geek podcast on iTunes.
Or wherever your podcasts are sold. Or downloaded. Or whatever.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie.
And I'm Chelsea, and we're the hosts of the podcast
Tea Time with Katie and Chelsea.
We are 2 best friends who love pop culture. We try to have a female perspective on things, but we really just talk about anything we like. What are some recent topics we've done, Katie?
Well, we've talked about girl power songs, Wonder Woman, Veronica Mars, young adult fiction novels, San Diego Comic-Con, and so much more. So grab your cup of tea or whatever your drink of choice is and download our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher and start listening today.
Hi, my name is Joe Hogan. and I'm a geek. And if you're currently listening to this, there's a good chance you're a geek too. So check out my podcast, Geektitude. Each week, I talk with somebody about their geek aptitude. Sometimes I talk to people in a geeky profession. Sometimes it's someone doing something really cool with their geekiness. Often it's another geeky podcaster. But it's always someone who wants to share their inner geek. So join me each week as we come together to geek out about all the geeky stuff we love. And remember, this week, keep it geek.
And we are back. This show is part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. Please make sure to rate, subscribe, write reviews for everybody, and be merry. No, the most recent episodes that I've listened to, I'm about just a few minutes into, I think I'm still on the weekly geekery for the most recent episode of Tea Time, where they're going to get into Dawson's Creek, which I have no frame of reference for, but I don't care because I love their podcast. It's just great to listen to those two, have fun together and joke around. The most recent Geek to Geek podcast was really enjoyable. It was a Q&A episode. I would love to do one of those myself, I think. I did one last time just because I needed content for a week, so I just stole all of the questions that were asked of Void and Beej. So if you want me to do that sort of thing, feel free. Let me know. Hit me up. All the links on how to get in touch with me are in the show notes. And then Geektitude did their Justice League review, where Joe and then Ray Vargas came on again, and I really, really liked their conversation. And Joe was absolutely correct in stating that their opinions were going to be, and his in particular, much different from mine. They brought up all sorts of stuff that I had not thought about. I love how Ray was talking about this idea of DC having a much longer history stretching out behind it that they're able to pull from with Atlantis and the Amazons and stuff. Like, that's, I don't know, I guess that's my teaser, but go listen to those podcasts if you haven't already. Now, let's do a little bow, 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 bow. Bow, bow, bow. Avengers Infinity War official trailer stuff. First thing I'm just going to say is that, just a broad note, I found it interesting that this trailer, it feels like they have a theme now. I mean, I know we've already had 2 Avengers movies in the past, but Marvel has always kind of had this thing where, like, you know, sing me the Superman theme song. You could do it. Sing me Harry Potter. You could do it. Basically anything by John Williams, right? But sing me the Thor theme song, and you're probably going to have no idea. I like that this, first of all, I like that this trailer is sort of doing that, and it gets you all goosebumpy, and, but it seems to have a theme. All right, so, but here's how I'm going to do this. I'm stumbling over myself because I'm so excited. I think this is going to be fun. So this is a 2-minute and 24-second trailer. I am looking. It is #1 on trending on YouTube. It dropped this morning. It is currently sitting at 19,588,979 views. Refreshing the page, it is now at 19,600,000. Think about that. In one day. That's how awesome this is. And chances are, at least 1 million of those is probably one fan who just can't stop watching it because they're so excited. So let's start at the top. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. You are going to... I'm not going to make you watch it along with me because I'm going to be doing a lot of starting and stopping. So I'm just going to describe what I'm talking about, and then when I pause it, I'm going to, cut out those spaces, if that makes sense. All right, here we go. So it looks like we are starting on a shot of the Earth, and we have some of the original cast. We have Samuel L. Jackson starting to speak right off the top. All right, first other shot. We got this shot of Tony Stark, and the first time I saw this, I thought he was holding somebody else's hand, and it was like, oh, somebody's clearly down. But he does not look like he is in terribly good shape. He's dirty, looks like he's kind of sweaty. There's a whole big light in the background, something there. It almost looks like he's out in space. If you see the star thing on the right side, it looks like there might be something floating around there. So maybe somehow he's trapped in Thanos' ship. He's somewhere else. I'm thinking that doesn't seem quite like Earth to me. Next shot we get is the Hulk looking as the Hulk does, having changed into Bruce Banner, bewildered and in a giant hole full of wreckage. Except, cut to the next shot, and we see Doctor Strange and Wong looking down at him. Wong's all ready to go. There's a giant hole in the ceiling. So clearly, this is how the Hulk ends up coming to Earth. How this happens, we have no idea. There's no real hints here. But he fell through the atmosphere and apparently aimed it just right, where even with the Earth's rotation, he lands through the roof of, I'm guessing, the Sanctum Sanctorum, Doctor Strange's base. Next up, we have this really interesting sequence of shots with the Scarlet Witch and Vision, but then, boom, we look up and we see Vision. It still looks like he's got that gem, the mind gem, in his forehead, but he has hair, his skin, you can't quite tell because of the lighting if it's a little reddish maybe there's still a little bit of that purple in there. Otherwise, it looks like he's a normal person outside of this lit up gem in his forehead. And clearly there are a couple. This is from the comic books in that the Vision and Scarlet Witch were in love for a time. I don't know if they still are in the comics. I do not ever remember a time where the Vision was put into the body of a human being. But in the character's history, I can't imagine it not happening. I know they've done it with Red Tornado over at DC, who is their version of the android who was designed to destroy the Justice League but ended up becoming their friend and joining the team. But I find this interesting. Part of me thinks that this is going to be a dream sequence. I don't personally think we're going to see this as a reality, knowing Scarlet Witch's ability to put dreams in people's minds, visions. My thought is perhaps the Vision dies. Maybe we lose the Vision. And while he is dying, Scarlet Witch puts this image in his head of them together. And not just that, but he's human. That's obviously, I have no evidence to support this outside of a shot we'll talk about later on. Cut to black. We come back and we see Thor. He's in a ship. My guess is this must be the Milano, the ship of the Guardians of the Galaxy, as he talks all serious-like. We get a shot of Bruce Banner, now fully dressed, standing next to an arm for the Hulkbuster armor. And I'm guessing the person he's talking to there, just judging by the arm guard and the shoulder pad, I'm thinking that might be the Black Widow. And then we get a shot reverse of the Black Widow standing there, so we can assume that's the same thing. But she's blonde now. In the comic books, there is a second Black Widow named Yelena. Oh, and her last name starts with a B. Brava. So there is precedent for a blonde Black Widow in the comics, but it was a different Black Widow. So I'll be interested to see if they drop maybe an Easter egg on us where she's living under that assumed identity. Looks like she's got her 2 sticks on her back, ready to go, her shock sticks. Cut to black, and we get a big, really long Marvel logo, which, building excitement, you start to just barely hear that Avengers theme slowly come in. Marvel Studios. And everybody is losing it. We get a shot of the city because we need it. We turn to see that now we can confirm that the Hulk fell into the Sanctum Sanctorum because there's a big hole in the steps where he must have fell in. And now we have Tony Stark that's hanging out with them. And I feel like there's something up with Tony Stark. If you go and you look very closely, I'm going to back up a little bit on this trailer. There's something glowing on his hand. I feel like that whole leather jacket might be its own version of his armor. Or maybe he's just holding a cell phone, but it doesn't look like it. It almost looks like the way they're standing there and the way Bruce Banner is turning around. They're getting ready to face something or someone. And as we'll see later on, Tony Stark has the arc reactor underneath his shirt, but that's interesting because it's not in his chest anymore. So I don't know if he's figured out a way to integrate the technology into fabric, or they're going to pull something on us to suggest that he loads an arc reactor back in his actual chest rather than... in Spider-Man, we assume it's only in his armor. And now we're seeing that it must be noise outside was what they were reacting to because we have Tony Stark who's going outside to see what everybody is running away from. Here's a big shot. I remember there was a leaked trailer in very poor quality from San Diego Comic-Con that showed the shot of Spider-Man where he's on the bus and then boom, the hairs on his arm stand up. What a creative and great way to show Spider-Sense. I love that. I think that's fantastic. He looks at his arm, and then he turns around, and we get a reverse shot through the window of what he's looking at. And unfortunately, what we see is a big spinny thing in the sky, which is kind of a thing I think most of us are done with in comic book movies. But love the Spider-Sense. Shot of him looking out the bus window. It looks like a giant halo. There's a big spinning thing inside. My guess is this must be a portal that will eventually let a bunch of aliens through, his invasion fleet, something. We see a shot of them in the street. A lot of things are destroyed. Again, we see Tony Stark with the arc reactor, Bruce Banner in the background, and then both Doctor Strange and Wong powering up, getting ready to throw down. We cut to a shot of people on the ground, but if you look carefully, and if you look at the boots of the person walking, I don't know if this is supposed to be Earth. I see what looks like in the background some weird markings on somebody's arm. I think this is a woman lying in the front. She seems to be wearing some kind of robe instead of a normal dress. And it looks like the people in back might have armor. So my thought is this might not be Earth. It might be one of the Asgardian realms, because we cut to see what appears to be the person who was walking through this whole time was Loki. He does not look happy. He looks pretty tired and beat up himself, and he slowly raises up the cosmic cube, which, as we know, contains one of the gems. I believe the space gem. Now we cut and we see this portal opening up, and I'm trying to pause it right on time to see if we see the spinny thing around it. I don't think so. But clearly there's a bunch of damage in the background, which means a lot is going to go down before Thanos even shows up. So we're going to feel Thanos before we see him. And I like that. I like that buildup. I think that's going to be better than, say, the Justice League and what they did with Steppenwolf, where he was just sort of there from the get-go. And then we see Thanos walk out. And here's my first negative thing to say about this. I don't like the sleeveless t-shirt look. I don't like it. Thanos has been drawn a couple different ways, but mostly he appears the way you've seen him in the other ones. He's got the helmet on and the full gold and blue armor. I don't know why he would show up dressed so casually, unless the idea is he's done so much destruction, everybody's already beaten already, all he's doing is sauntering in. But that also doesn't fit the Thanos that I know from the comics. It certainly fits the Thanos we know from the movies, where he likes to sit back and let other people do his work for him. And most recently, there was the Infinity Run where he had his own, what did he call it? Was it the Black Circle or the Black Order? He had sort of mini-bosses, if you will, that he sent down to mess up a bunch of stuff for him before he would get involved. I don't like that take on Thanos. I much prefer him being somebody who might have armies out there doing things for him, but he likes to take center stage. He likes the glory. He's in it for the personal achievement. And that's what I would hope to see. So maybe, hopefully, we'll still get to see him in his full armor at some point. I made a joke on Twitter where it looks like he just rolled out of bed, put on a sleeveless t-shirt, and then he just sort of saunters in here as though he's not really, caring that much. Though I know it's supposed to be a strut of him walking into taking everything he sees. Now, as we get a little closer up to him on this shot, it looks good in a still frame. It does. It looks like they did a lot of work on putting texture. He's even got those little wrinkles on his forehead, as well as obviously the big wrinkles on his chin. But I am still really worried we're going to get another Steppenwolf situation where a big bad is a CG character, and that because he's a CG character, I'm just not going to take the threat as credible. Even though we keep being told we should expect to see some Avengers die, we should expect to lose characters in this thing, I just feel like I might still have a hard time because we're dealing with a character that's computer generated. All right, our next shot, very, very cool. We see Peter Parker, we assume, who is now fully suited up in the Iron Spider armor we saw in Spider-Man Homecoming. Very cool. It looks like he has landed on the big spiral thing in order to hopefully try and stop whatever it's doing. Then we cut to some very cool shots of Thor, who seems to be holding on to some sort of lever in another giant ring. This one looks like it's in the sky. Maybe it's a rocket of some sort. It looks like he's traveling very quickly. Maybe he is trying to, shut something down. It looks like both of the things that he's grabbing there are either handles or maybe they're just big connectors that he's holding on to. So I don't know if he's holding on in order to travel somewhere quickly. I don't know if he's trying to stop something from happening, but clearly Thor is putting in a whole lot of effort. And here, interestingly and importantly, it looks like he still is missing the eye, which, if you saw any of the Vanity Fair pictures, very confusing. They released some images of character shots, and Thor not only had both eyes, but he had a hammerback. So I hope that that's not an awful spoiler. I don't know if that was just because that's what they wanted for the picture. It's also interesting to note that maybe that last shot of Thor was him on the ship with all of the Asgardians. We don't see him here with the Asgardians. He's obviously alone. So maybe those dead Asgardians, when Loki holds up the cosmic cube, maybe he finally betrayed, and do we lose everybody now? Are there no more Asgardians? That's going to be really interesting to see. And our next shot, and this goes very, very quickly, it's this split-second shot of somebody with a long staff. I believe this is the character known as Proxima Midnight, who is a female general of Thanos. And that spear is being thrown at a person who is in shadow and we don't quite see it, but then they move so fast that they catch it. But we get the shot of the Black Panther, which we know that movie has to come first, but obviously I guess he survives that movie. And then we get Captain America stepping out of the shadows, and he's all bearded, and he's wearing what looks like his uniform from Civil War, except all of the color is taken out. The star is gone. The red stripes along the chest are gone. We look over and we see the Scarlet Witch, and she does not look happy. We cut again, and we see the Hulkbuster armor. It's back. What is that city in the background? It looks like Wakanda to me. We see a shot of the Black Widow. Looks like she's stabbing somebody with the spear. We turn and we see Doctor Strange doing his thing. These giant pillars falling from the sky. What are these? Is this part of Thanos' big plot to take over? Probably. We cut to a shot of Captain America as he punches what looks like not Chitauri. It looks like these giant, they're aliens, which means they're able to kill them en masse and we don't feel bad about it because they're not people. But it's some sort of spidery, multi-armed alien bugs. And we see another shot where we get a little better look at what these creatures are. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to throw down a name of another alien race like the Badoon that this might be. I think they can use that one. I think that one is probably tied to Guardians of the Galaxy. So I don't think they're infringing on, Fantastic Four or whatever. We see a shot of Black Panther fighting as well, so clearly they're all fighting together here. Thanos, again, in his sleeveless t-shirt. I don't know why they're doing the bro dude thing. Slamming Spider-Man down to the ground. We cut and we see a what might be a continuation of the shot we saw of Tony Stark earlier, with the big bright light behind him. There's ashes flying in the air, cinders. He also looks almost on the verge of tears, which would follow up with that previous shot, which means somebody just went down, or something just got destroyed. We cut and we see the Vision, and somebody is standing on his chest, and it looks like there might be two people standing there. And then down comes what looks almost like Loki's staff, but I'm betting it's not. I'm betting it's the weapon of another one of Thanos' generals named Corvus Glaive, who has a big staff with a blade on the end, and he's stabbing the Vision right in his forehead gem. Then we cut to see a close-up of Thanos' glove, and he's putting the second gem on it. The first gem is a purple gem, which would be the power gem from Guardians of the Galaxy, which meant he had gone to visit the Collector, I think. Or did they take it? No, they took it from the Collector and they gave it to the Nova Corps. So they visited the homeworld of the Nova Corps, and now he's adding the blue gem, which in their universe, and it's so confusing, because in the comics, the purple gem is the space gem. So here the stone, rather, adding the blue stone, which would be the one that he would have gotten out of the cosmic cube, which, if we go back a bit, is what we see Loki handing over. So my thought is maybe then Thanos takes out all of the Asgardians, and Loki, in order to save himself or whoever might be left, hands over the cosmic cube that he took from Asgard before it was destroyed at the end of Ragnarok, and is now handing it over to Thanos. We see a shot of the Iron Man armor looking up. Now, we know that Tony Stark can pilot it remotely, so we don't necessarily know whether or not he's in it. We see Thanos give a slight smile as he flexes his fist now with 2 Infinity Gems on it, and he just lays into Iron Man, lays Iron Man out. We see a shot of Bucky. He's got his metal arm back. He's cocking a rifle. He's standing next to a bunch of Wakandan warriors. We turn and we see a shot of the Black Panther, who also looks like he's getting ready to go. If you look in the background, to the right behind him, you will see Captain America and Bucky, and then it's a very quick shot. If you look directly behind him, you will see red. Now, I don't know if that is the garb of one of his other allies. Is it his female bodyguard, perhaps, that we meet? Or that might be the Vision back there. It looks like there might be a bit of cape, too. We cut and we see this massive battlefield. Wakandan soldiers going up against these alien creatures, and we're flying on the back of the Falcon as he comes in and he's letting it loose. We cut for a giant shot of both of these armies as they get ready to slam into one another, and a big tower in the back that kind of reminds me of Lord of the Rings. And it looks like Black Panther is out in front, outstripping everybody, which absolutely he would be. He's that kind of king. Then we cut to this big hero shot which is really interesting because if you look, we have from left to right, down in front, we have Bucky, the Black Widow, Captain America, the female bodyguard or ally of the Black Panther, whose name we will learn. I'm sure it's in the press releases and everything else, but I'm not familiar with the character. And the Black Panther. In the back, you have the Hulk. In the back right, you have the Falcon. But who is that on the top left? That is Iron Man. And then we cut to the Avengers logo that slowly hovers there as the title comes in, and we get that music. Avengers Infinity War. Cut to the stinger. Who are you guys? Thor, still missing an eye. We turn and we see the Guardians of the Galaxy. And Groot is a teenager. And Mantis gives a little wave. And that's it. And we cut to black. And we get a date of May 2018. And that's it. That is us going all the way through, very slowly, through that trailer. I am very curious to hear all of your guys' thoughts on this. I know everybody's very excited. I hope none of this was too spoilery walking through. I think it's clear we're going to be losing people. And then Avengers 4 is going to be them trying to put things back together. And I'm trying to think, I want to say before Avengers 4, don't we get Captain Marvel? So maybe Carol Danvers will get introduced in this one, though I heard she's not on the IMDb page anymore. And I have read some angry fan comments who were waiting all of this time to see Captain Marvel and now are not. So that'll be, or may not rather. So that'll be interesting. But I look forward to this movie, obviously. I look forward to the conversation with all of you. Let's move on to the end of the show with some The poll list for next week, once again, is going to be to watch Runaways. I think we might have 4 episodes by then. I'm going to do my best to get through at least the first 3, which I know launched all at the same time, so I'm thinking that might be its own 3-episode arc. And then we are going to talk about those. I don't know. We'll see. Dr. Ray was the one who suggested Runaways to me, so I'd love to see if I can get him on the show, but I make no promises. As always, if you would like to send your thoughts to me and continue this conversation, there are several ways that you can do that. You can find us on Twitter at ComicBoxCast, me personally at Noby. You can find us on Reddit. We have a Geek to Geek Cast subreddit, so search Geek to Geek Cast or type in reddit.com/r/Geek to Geek Cast. You can talk to us in real time in the giant group chat known as Slack by heading to slack.geektogeekcast.com to get an invite. Otherwise, I think it's geektogeekcast.slack.com is where it's located. I'm unclear on all of that. You can email us at thecomicboxpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we are part of the Geek to Geek Podcast Network, so you can head over to geektogeekcast.com to check out all of the other shows and see if any of them tickle your fancy. That is it for this week, you guys. This has been issue 76 of the Comic Box. We are closing the Comic Box, and I will see you guys next week. Bow, 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 do by the Avengers. That's not the theme, but I did it earlier, so this time I'm doing something different. Different. We also didn't see Hawkeye at all, but we saw there was a picture of him. And his hair is really dumb. My wife thinks Hawkeye sucks.